Well, speaking of PSA before as well, regarding the Pikachu, the 18K fake shill listing, PSA have announced some big news today as we're recording this, right?
Oh,
Big.
what a
It's very
absolutely
big. So
beautiful
PSA
segue.
have acquired Genamint, which, by the way,
RII division.
great Genamint. Yes, let's read this first and foremost. Let's see if I can make it bigger for the audience. PSA have announced it's acquired Genamint Inc., a software company that will help improve the scale and the process by which PSA handles trading card submissions. Genamint technology analyzes each trading card in real time and is able to provide diagnostics, measurements, and detect alterations or other changes made to the card's surface in an effort to assist human graders. It will also provide unique card identification or card fingerprinting by identifying the exact card in order to track provenance, resubmissions, condition changes, and other attributes over time. And then the rest of it's just some waffle and some jargon, but that's the general gist of it. And so I guess straight away, thoughts from you guys?
I think the biggest quote is the one, paragraph and a bit underneath. We're not eliminating humans from the grading process. He didn't say it.
Yeah, but yet.
He didn't say it.
But yet.
But he's not saying it. I think it's a really good move if it's focusing on the things that are just taking time that aren't the kind of subjective grading approach that PSA have and have always taken. I think it's really good if they're using things. People use the term AI. It's not really AI. If they're using those kind of learning techniques to look at things like the centering of the card. Is the card real? Is there something super obvious with the card? Has the card been resubmitted 1 million times?
Yeah.
Is this just cracked and come back? Are people trying to kind of game the system a little bit? I think those things are pretty good if it can check for recoloring and alterations, like stuff that a grader shouldn't have to look. A grader should be looking at the 4 areas, right? The corners, the centering, the edges, and the surfaces. If it can eliminate the other stuff and give the graders a better workflow that way, I think that's really good. If it's taken away from the graders, though, that's when I think it can get a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So yeah, you've heard that side. I'm going to give you the other side. So they've brought in this big technology company, and they will help PSA over the next 6 to 12 months with their backlog, and they're going to be doing all of those things that Tom's saying. However, I'm going to give you my personal opinion on the long term. Look at CGC, look at HGA, look at these other trading card companies. They are being more specific on their grades than PSA. At the end of the day, that's the whole truth, right? There is more subjectivity to their grades. So these guys have been bought in long term, in my opinion, to solve that. If a 9's a 9, it's a 9 every time. It's not an 8, then a 9, then maybe a 10. So in my opinion, but in my opinion, that is going to affect old cards.
Definitely.
Because what are those 10s now? Are those, are those 10? If I resubmit them to PSA, will they just go through, a computer and then, a grader as well and be like, yeah, that's still a 10, or will they be like, well, that's a 9 now?
Yeah.
So there are many, many questions with this. I think short term, it's going to be brilliant. However, I wonder if once the technology is up to deliver and it can deliver the grading, and if I'm the owner of PSA and I can make the card grading quicker and eliminate the subjectivity, am I going to be attracted to, pressing that nuclear button? So there's two sides to see this personally.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you in certain aspects. Like I do think it's a positive for sure. I think it's a great step in the right direction. But I do also think that the human grade, the human aspect of grading cards is a really important one because PSA, CGC, they are third party graders. That's what they are. It's a third party authentication and grading service. So yes, they are grading cards, but it's their opinion. You know what I'm saying? It's their professional expert opinion. Being professional sports graders, professional in their field. It's they're looking at the card as experts and saying, right, this is in our opinion what that grade could be. Does that obviously therefore leaves holes in the consistency of their grades? Because over time, the people at PSA will get better. They're better experts now than they were 20 years ago. But also with their exponential growth, new graders are going to come in. You can have old graders, different opinions. So it's hard to keep it consistent. So I think where CGC are trying to improve, they're trying to take the human aspect away a little bit by making more of a hybrid system. Checking centering, etc. Maybe then personally people check the edges, the surface, and stuff, which I think is good, but I think you can never lose that personal, that human touch, kind of saying, because at the end of the day, it should be an opinion I want an opinion from a real person. At the end of the day, if you have computers learning, if you're getting more accurate with it, you're going to find things that, you'll never see, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So, the cards should be graded on a personal, handheld eyesight level, but go on.
The problem with accuracy is the more accurate you get, the more problems you'll find. Like, how long is a piece of string? The closer you measure it, the longer it gets. You think of a snooker ball, you think of that as extremely smooth, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas the Earth, loads of mountains, loads of trenches. If you scaled a snooker ball up to the size of the Earth, it would be a million times more rough. Like, the Earth would look perfectly spherical. And like, the closer you get to something, the worse it gets. If I'm looking at a card and I'm like, there is no flaw I can see with my eye. Mm-hmm. No matter what the lighting, no matter if I look, like if I zoom in, whatever. Sick, it's 10. Like, if a computer's doing it though, it will find that, like, depending on how they tune it, it could find like atomic problems.
Of course, yeah, and we do want graders to we want graders to magnify, we want graders to use the correct lighting, we want them to find things that we can't see, but we don't want to go. You don't want to go too far into the sense that it's like, right, well, no one can see this even in the best lighting, even with the best tools. Where do we stop? So I think it's a combination of both. What I do really like about this though, and the AI aspect and the technology aspect of grading, is I think speed and efficiency, which I think if you read the writing in PSA, I think that's where they definitely highlight that. Improve the scale and improve and scale the process by which PSA handles cards. So I think if this can double their speed and it gets to a point where, like Tom said, when the grader has the card in their hand, they've already figured out the authenticity, X, Y, Z, even centering. Because I mean, centering is one of the most objective parts of grading, right? So if is the centering more than 90-10? Is the centering more than 80-20? Blah blah blah. Whereas the scratch is like, is that a hairline scratch? Is that a deep scratch? Are the nicks on the corners factory nicks, or are they actual man-made, etc.? Are they something we've done? So I think if you can half that up and give the responsibility to the computer, but still have that person touch, that's quite cool.
I think the point I would make is, if you did give it all to the computer, what's the point of PSA, CGC, any other grading company? You've got one universally accepted definition of quality. Brands don't matter, right? So it would just be that this computer has said this, and that is that. And that's all that matters, because you wouldn't need other brands. So it's not really... This is where it's interesting. It's not actually in the grading services' interest. They need to have differences in opinion, because like you said, otherwise they all just become, they just become machines blurting out the same grades. Mm-hmm. And therefore there's no actual, it doesn't work from a competitive point of view. If every single fast food chain was McDonald's serving the same French fries,
I'd be happy.
But there'd be no competition. And that means, everyone would just be eating the same crap, and therefore it wouldn't matter. So it's going to be interesting to see how AI and computers is more generated into the trading card scene, grading trading
I think
card scene.
It's super, like, obviously I've already said that I kind of like this. I think it is interesting with the company they've chose to partner with though. So I jumped onto their LinkedIn, and they've had 2 updates. 6 months ago, they had a coming soon screen, which was a phone app saying scan in, place a card within the item. And then 3 hours ago, they had AI startup sold to company backed by Mets owner. Like, they've gone from zero to hero here so fast. I'd like to know the kind of reputation their software engineers have got, their hardware engineers have got, and kind of the backbone behind this company. Obviously, Nat and the team there have looked into this, but it'd be nice for them to kind of give more to the audience and the customers.
Because, I think that's the way I see it. And this is I've barely done any research into this. The way I would see it is that a very quiet company, very inactive company before this. It would make a lot of sense if PSA or someone involved with PSA. And obviously, they PSA went through an acquisition that could have been going on for months, could have been going on for a year, and the price just keeps changing. It takes a lot of time to work out these details. They could have had the idea of let's start this company, or let's kind of like see where this can go. If once the technology is right, we'll announce the acquisition. So it could be something that they've planned to, which is not a bad thing. It's a good way to do business realistically. But I imagine that we've had the question for a long time. CGC are a new player in the game, doing really well. How are PSA going to respond to that? That competition, and this is a response to that competition. And to be fair, I don't think they would ever do this without the competition, which is why competition is always good, right?
This is always fantastic.
Yeah, with everything,
especially for the consumer.
But they do make a very big point that they're not eliminating humans because. For the reasons that I've described. But it's going to be more interesting about 12, 24 months time. Now, I'm not suggesting this is going to happen immediately. I'm thinking if it's there to be picked, I just wonder if someone is going to go, well, sod it, let's
Or
go for
maybe
it.
they introduce a new service level with like a blue label or something, like a different coloured label border, where they're like, this is the computer version of their grade. It costs $3 because we don't have to do anything with it.
Yeah, but at that point, then it's like, at that point, then I don't know. Yeah, it's
Who's giving it the value? So what's the who's giving it the value there?
But
so,
if you can open a new revenue stream and see if it works, you might.
But this is what I'm saying. They're going to get. I think they could get caught into a honey trap.
Yeah,
that's what I'm worried about. I think if the desire's there, then they're going to get caught in a honey trap, and then
I'll
they'll
resubmit
set
all
off,
of your primes.
But this is the point.
Service.
They might set off something that at short term they think is going to be a revenue stream, but long term has a massive damaging effect. But I'm sure they already know these risks.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's someone in their boardroom telling them these things are much higher detailed.
They've
levels.
got a little tech wizard with a hat made of like motherboards going, no!
Yeah.
Hopefully they've done the research. I saw someone a while ago on a forum called PSA as a please send again. So I think that's one business model you may think PSA go for. They've always updated their labels, which is good. They've always updated certain I guess all the grading scales change. So maybe people want to submit again and they want to get changed. And I think that's a big point of it. How long have PSA been going? 20 to 30 years or whatever. They have made changes in the way they grade the cards. Their opinion probably has changed. The card quality has changed. So, for example, speaking about, say, Connor's Primes or any other card, their opinion now might change if you resubmit it. But the good thing is that you always can resubmit it. If you're so worried that your grade isn't, or your card hasn't been identified properly, or you think they're better now, you can always resubmit it. The only downside to that is obviously, a card is a 10. You don't want to send it back and get an 8 now. Being completely honest, if you're looking to hold value with your collection, if you're looking to, even just have some happiness that your collection's worth X, Y, Z, or you want the grade in your collection, you don't want to lower that grade, but the option's always there, right?
But if it comes public knowledge that if you've got an old cert and now those 10s are all 9s, effectively, because 60 to 70% of them do now
people,
get 9s.
People have that opinion now, don't
yeah. So that will have a massive effect. They're being pressured by the competition, and I see Nat is coming in and he's coming in like a bull in a shop, isn't he? Like he is coming in, he's making big changes, and fair play to that. He's
making waves.
He is making waves, more so than I think most people expected.
I want to retract my earlier statement about saying they need to be more public in a sense, because I've just read I didn't read this line before, about the former CEO and founder of Vino, which was a market leader in the machine vision field. I think if they could show some of that, though, that'd be really, really cool. If they could show some of the technology maybe and how it's being used. Obviously, can't give away trade secrets. But if
this is exactly how we do
it. Well, they did a video a million years ago, didn't they, of like some guys in a dark lit room.
This is interesting. So Kevin Lenane, which is, I'm assuming who you're speaking about there, is the founder of Gentleman and the new VP of product management at PSA. That's a big role to go straight into. It's not like, we're trying this new company out. It's like, we've acquired this company and they're going to be a massive part of where we go going forward. But I think for me, I think change is always important. You have to keep improving. Look at car manufacturers. You wouldn't imagine the car manufacturer to make the same car they did 30 years ago. So PSA do have to change the way they grade cards, the way they look at cards, and that's just natural. It does happen. PSA have obviously made many mistakes with the way they grade cards, etc. But again, send it again. And most mistakes they make, they'll rectify it. They won't rectify their opinion, as in for free. Sorry. So obviously, if you've got a mislabel, they'll sort out for free. Whereas if you want a different opinion, you gotta grade it again. Because at the end of the day, it's a third party authenticator. It's not a food hygiene company. It's not regulated in that sense. So it's like, it's their opinion. You pay for their opinion. If you don't want their opinion, you pay someone else. You know what I'm saying? So that's realistically how the game works of PSA, CGT, etc. So I think it might be an improvement. It might be a catastrophic failure, but they're doing something which I think they have to do to keep up with.
I think short term it absolutely will be. I'm just saying there's long term risks there. I think short term it's obviously going to improve the process.